this video, I will be showing you how I made this small mouse sitting on a dandelion, made from air dry clay, wire, wool, and painted with acrylic paints. This is one of my very first clay sculptures. I've only just started working with clay, so it's really the beginning of an art journey for me. To start with, I cut some wire to roughly 2 cm long pieces. I then cut some wool that was left over from an older crochet project into roughly 1 cm long pieces. I then glued the wool onto the wire using PVA glue, making sure to insert the wire in between the 3 strands. Using some tweezers, I fluffed up the wool a bit to make the seeds nice and fluffy on the tops. In total, I did make about 60 of these. Next, I rolled out some clay to start making the stem of the flower. I placed a sturdy piece of wire on top of the clay and rolled it up nicely to create a nice long tube. I added a ball of clay for the flower head, which I then smoothed out and attached to the stem. I then went on and created these small dents inside the flower head. For the mouse's body, I just roughly rolled up some clay into the shape that I needed it to be, and with some tools, I pushed in the shape for the mouse's head. I rolled out some little clay sausages for the mouse's arms, and using a little bit of slip and some tools, I attached the arms to the mouse. Using some finer tools, I started creating some fur texture and smaller details on the mouse. For the mouse's hind leg, I created another clay sausage and pushed it onto the mouse like I did with the front legs. I then placed the mouse onto the flower stem using some slip. I pushed his little hind foot over the stem and used a sharp tool to create some small little toes. Finally creating the mouse's last back leg and doing the same here for the other hind foot. Took my time to create a nice fur texture on the mouse's body, as later this will come in handy when it comes to painting, as it's a lot easier to create texture now with the clay than it is just using paints alone. With a small amount of clay, I added some ears onto the mouse. And here I'm adding some eyes for the little mouse to see with. With smaller pieces of clay added to the mouse's face, I was able to make some more fluffy fur texture. For the mouse's tail, we used the same method, as with the flower stem, which is simply wrapping some wire inside some clay and then applying it to the flower stem, wrapping it around nicely to look like the little mouse is holding on to the flower stem with his tail. For the leaves, I rolled out some more clay into flat pieces and roughly cut out some shapes along the edges. The nice thing about nature is nothing is perfect. For the texture of the leaves, I just used a ball tool. If I were to remake this piece, I would insert wire into the leaves as well to make them more sturdy, as they did end up breaking later on. I just made them too thin. For the base of the piece, I just created a lump of aluminium foil and covered it in a thin layer of clay. I went on to create lots of different textures in the base of the piece to make it look as natural as possible. I pushed the stem into a pre-made hole and attached it using clay. The leaves were attached using more clay and slip. In part 2, I'll show you how I painted this sculpture, which really made it come to life. Thanks for watching. It means a lot to have you here at the start of this little adventure. I can't wait to see where it goes. you.